every day you essentially pay your dues by doing the harder thing when it's the right thing to do. So one is that you have to have a private, honest conversation with the parents away from the gym, away from the kid, away from the whole thing. And you have to literally just start flat out like it's a safety issue. It's 100% a safety issue, right? Because it only takes one flyaway where you come in and clip your feet and put your hand down to dislocate your elbow and you break your arm and then you're out for the season, right? So like that has to be priority number one, that like that is the reason why you have to go back to basics, because it takes 1 second for her to have an injury like that. And then obviously she can't compete, right? And that's the whole issue. There's the actual physical and mental health side of it. But then 3 is like, she might never come back to gymnastics after that. Like there's been some people who get career ending like injuries because they're terrified of doing stuff. So respectfully, and I think this always, you have to lead with empathy and with perspective, reverse engineer from the mom side, that the mom probably just cares about wanting her to do well. And she's probably frustrated at home and she's dealing with a daughter at the kitchen table who's really frustrated with maybe her flyaway. Like, and I don't know the context obviously, but if you can maybe approach it from the angle of, listen, I know you probably just want what's best for your daughter. You want her to compete. We want her to compete. We want her to do a flyaway. We love it. But currently right now, because these skills are so high risk, it's a pressure cooker right now, and it's not working because we're forcing it too much. So if we take a step back and we say like, let's just let it breathe. Let's just not worry about it. Let's get through this next week, this next meet, this next season, whatever else it is. And then you can come back around to probably what they want. Her long-term goal for her daughter, or her, the son too, or the mother and father, is probably just to be healthy and do gymnastics high level, or like whatever they want to do, keep doing gymnastics.
I have an article that comes from the NC2A, which they polled a whack ton of athletes about the drive home. And we give it out every year to all the parents, both in our interclub and our competitive provincial and national level athletes. And it just kind of gives the parents a perspective of what the athlete is feeling when they're done their training. They're not wanting to be grilled over every turn that they did, how they did it, et cetera, et cetera. They just want that unconditional love is, did you have fun? Yeah. Did you work hard? Yeah. Okay. I love you. And it also has some tidbits in there of what athletes prefer to hear from their parents. One of the terms that we use a lot, we model a lot, because now my children are in gym, is I loved watching you do your gymnastics. And that's really important. And it's also a great tool, especially when you're at a competition, when you go sit with the parents in between rotations or at the end. It's a great thing that you can just drop in there as a coach about your athlete, that then hopefully the parents start to pick up on that kind of perspective. You're doing all the right things. You're not focusing on the scores or the results. You're focusing on the process. And that's just really something to reiterate with your parents. We have an athlete code of conduct, and we also have a parent code of conduct of things they should avoid saying in front of their children or at all at meets or in training, things like that.
I can't tell you how many new evaluations I've had in the last 2 weeks from new back pain, new wrist pain, ankle pain, like mid-season. Yeah, new injuries, because here in the States, we're in the middle of season and championships are upon us. And I think everyone is getting a little tired, a little excited, a little of all the things. And so I also had about 4 messages from people in HQ asking about what can I do for back pain with this girl who's in the middle of her season, or what can I do for this? So my best advice to people who are listening to this is you have to be so strategic and meticulous about how you plan what you're doing throughout the week, right? You cannot just do 45 minutes of beam series. You cannot just do 45 minutes of just jumping and doing your hardest difficulty skills. You can't do 45 minutes of jumps and leaps for rhythmic people, right? This is not going to go well, because you're going to blow out their back, right? Or their shins or their knees. So a lot of athletes are teetering on the edge in the middle of season in terms of injury starting or fatigue or all that kind of stuff. So look at your week, whether it's 2 days or 7 days, right? And break down, hopefully it's not 7 days, it's 6 days, but look at how many days you're on the events that you're on, how many routines you feel you have to do to be ready for the meets that you're doing, and how many, what's the minimal effective dose that you can do to be ready for those things, right? It doesn't matter whether it's compulsory or whether it's international elite, right? If you know that you think 3 routines on this event are what you feel and the athletes feel they're ready to be prepared on, don't do 5, right? Don't do 3 and get to 1 more and be like, you know what, well, we have more time, we're going to do 2 more, because it starts to add up junk mileage pretty quick. And I think for people who are I think it comes from a little bit of a nervous situation of like, oh my God, we need to do more. We need to get more. We need to get more. But there's a very sharp return on investment after a few routines or 3, for example, on certain events that you start to tip over into exhaustion, and then you start making errors when you're fatigued, and those errors become mental things because now you know your last routine you had an error versus your first 2 you didn't. So I would really encourage people to sit down with your staff, sit down with a team after you sit down with your staff, and plan what are we going to attack the next 3 or 4 sessions with, because of, here where I'm at, it's like states, the regionals, the nationals, or I know you guys have different timelines and stuff, but everyone who's trying to scramble a little bit right now, I think is where things are going to be a little bit concerning. So break those things down and try to figure out how many routines we need to do for corrections and skills, how many of those you need to do, and try to really be diligent about sticking to that. Don't just let that kind of wiggle open-ended in the other way. Vice versa, you have to actually train to get ready for your routines. There's 2 very, very high-level Division I programs and elite program that are all asking the exact same question. And I'm going to tell everyone in this group the exact same thing, which is what I told them, which is 1 to 2 days of lifting, 1 to 2 days of gymnastic strength and conditioning, 1 prehab day, some sort of daily gymnastics work every single day in the warm-up through lines or basics or Nick's Daily Dozen, 2 cardio circuits of the week in circuit form, and then having 1 day where you have that prehab wellness. And also a third piece is try to work or find a sports physio, an athletic trainer, a sports chiropractor, anybody who can do a movement screen with your coach and with whoever else is involved. Get that into those 2 weeks when you're slowly ramping back up, right?
You mentioned in your point 1 about the templates.
Yeah.
All of my yearly planning instruments, my YPIs, all have now taken what I had before and incorporated your templates right into them.
Oh.
It's so much simpler. When I meet with parents and I pull up the Excel spreadsheet and I go from tab to tab to tab, they see the big picture for 8-year cycle, even 12-year cycle, down to each cycle, what we're focused on, all the way through down to a daily focus. Awesome. So anybody that's out there thinking, should I or shouldn't I, do it. It will it clears the way. You get all your homework done, and it leaves you free to do the actual thing that you love to do, which is coach.
Yeah, don't beat yourself up, man, because the sport is hard and you could have done everything right and you still might have had people mid-season nagging and cracking and stuff like that. Like, trust me, I have some programs that are just like almost by gospel are doing everything that I think is great, and they still just have stuff popping up. So part of it is maybe out of your control, at a bigger picture of the global sport. But I think you're spot on. I think taking that moment to be reflective and be like, all right, what's non-modifiable and what is modifiable? And there's very rarely a situation where getting a little bit stronger and revisiting some of those basic techniques isn't going to help you tenfold down the road. So maybe in those athletes who you separate into, maybe the season is going to come to a close early because of some of these injuries, just start making a program for them. Like, hey, listen, this sucks. I wish we didn't have this situation to deal with, but what are the things that we can use this as an opportunity for? We can sit around for 6 weeks and wait for the end of the season and kind of be bummed about it. Or we can try to fill our time with get that handstand better, get that ankle mobility better, get that whatever, that high bar tap swings, right? If you can only do bars because your ankle's bummed, well, let's have phenomenal handstand basics, let's have phenomenal, tap swings. Let's just like revisit and try to treat it as an opportunity and not a woe is me. This is the end of the world. Everyone else is competing and I'm kind of sitting on the sidelines, because it's hard. It's really hard for an athlete to do that. And as a coach, you're like, oh, damn, what did I miss? Or what did I do wrong? Or like, what am I doing? But sometimes it's just the dice roll in a bad way. I remember there's one year early on at our gym, it was like the second year I was working there, where I'm like the guy, right? I'm supposed to know all the things to prevent back pain and this and that. We had like 4 girls with back injuries. Like none of them had fractures, but they were all out for like 3 months at the end of the season because their backs were so sore. And I spent hours and hours and hours trying to go over what happened, what we did wrong, what we didn't do right or whatever. And, some things were, maybe we can get better technique, better strength, but we use those 2 months as an opportunity to try to work on all their flexibility, all their basics, all their dance work, all their choreography, learn a new floor routine, like all the things that I wish I had more time to do when it wasn't in the middle of season or when the summer comes around and I want to focus on new skills and the fun stuff. Maybe just try to sit with them and be like, let's use these 4 weeks to our advantage. Obviously, we want to get you back to states if you can do it, but if it's not going to happen, let's try to think about what we can do to be better for the summer.